Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we are clocking in, we're tying on the apron, grabbing the notepad, and stepping right onto the front
The
line.
front line.
And I use that term very intentionally because the source material we're covering today, it makes this pretty bold claim right out of the gate.
Mm.
It argues that being a waiter or waitress isn't just about, logistics moving a plate from point A to point B. It says the server is the absolute face of the restaurant.
It's a huge distinction to make, isn't it? I mean, we always think the kitchen is the engine room, the chef is the rock star.
Right.
But this guide, English for waiters and waitresses, a complete guide, it makes this really compelling case that the server is the interface. They are the architect of the guest's actual experience,
And it frames English as the key.
as the lingua franca of global hospitality, which, when you think about it, makes perfect sense.
Oh, completely. If you're working in a major tourist hub, Paris, Tokyo, wherever, or even just a city like New York, English is that bridge language.
Exactly. So our mission today is to unpack what I'm calling the script of dining. We're going to look at the specific language, the psychology, the little behavioral cues that this guide says can turn a standard meal into a high-quality dining experience.
I love that idea of a script because even if you have zero intention of ever carrying a tray, this is fascinating just as a diner. It's like seeing the code behind the matrix, you know?
It is. Once you understand the structure behind a simple, "May I help you?" you can't unsee it. It totally changes how you experience a meal out.
So let's start at the very beginning, the mindset. The guide talks about this idea of friendly professionalism before you even say a word.
Right, and that sounds a bit like a corporate buzzword, but it's a very difficult balance. On one hand, you have to be personable, make small talk. On the other, you have to be efficient and almost invisible when you need to be.
It's the Goldilocks zone. You don't want a waiter who's a robot, but you also don't want one who pulls up a chair and tells you about their screenplay.
Precisely. And it all starts the second a customer walks in. The guide is so specific about the greeting. No mumbled hi or a casual nod.
So what's the recommended approach then? How do you nail that first impression?
It has to be an enthusiastic greeting with a visible smile. The phrase they highlight is "good evening" and "welcome."
It seems so basic.
It seems basic, but the guide says that specific energy sets the tone for the entire meal. It signals, "You're safe here, and I am in control."
That's the key word, isn't it? Trust. If I walk in and you look bored or annoyed, I immediately start to worry about the food, about the hygiene, everything. But good evening and welcome.
It just projects competence.
And you build on that trust with what the guy calls anticipating needs. So moving from reactive service, doing what you're asked to, proactive service.
This was my favorite part. It's the difference between just doing your job and actually caring.
It really is. The examples they give are so small but so impactful, like bringing ketchup before the customer has to ask for it with their fries. Oh, that ketchup example is so real for me. There is nothing worse than watching your hot fries get cold while you're trying to flag someone down for a bottle of condiments.
It totally breaks the immersion. The meal becomes work for the customer. But when you anticipate that need, the guide says the customer feels cared for. And that word is important. It shifts it from a transaction to a relationship.
Okay, so let's walk through the script chronologically. We've got the mindset down. Guests have arrived. What's next?
After that greeting, we have the seating phase. And the standard phrases are all about traffic control, really. Right this way, please.
And the coat check? Can I take your coats? Always feels a little bit fancy.
Right, it unburdens them. But the phrase that really stood out to me here is what you say when they get to the table. Please make yourself comfortable.
It sounds so simple, almost like a throwaway line.
But think about the psychology. You're giving them explicit permission to relax. You're saying, this table is now your territory. Own it.
I like that. It's a transition marker. You're leaving the street behind and entering the sanctuary of the table.
Exactly.
Okay, so we're seated, we're comfortable. Now comes the menu presentation. And the guide puts a lot of weight on knowledge here.
Know the menu inside and out. That's the directive. And not just that the chicken comes with rice, they mean knowing the ingredients, especially for, vegetarian or gluten-free requests.
This goes right back to trust. If I have a serious allergy and ask, are there nuts in this? And the waiter says, I think so. I'm not eating it.
Of course not. Pretty sure it doesn't work when health is on the line. But if they say, no, there are no nuts in the sauce, but it is prepared in a kitchen that handles nuts, you relax. You feel safe.
And once that safety is there, you can do the fun stuff, the specials.
Our specials today are, it's classic. It implies exclusivity, freshness. It makes the guest feel like they're getting some insider info.
Okay, now to the real mechanics, taking the order. And this is where the guide teaches a little bit of salesmanship, the upsell.
The gentle art of suggestion, yeah. The guide suggests phrases like, would you like to add a soup or salad? Or, we have a house special cocktail if you're interested.
This is such a fine line, though, between being helpful and being pushy. I don't want to feel like I'm buying a used car when I'm just trying to order pasta.
The guide knows that. Notice the phrasing, if you're interested. It frames it as a service, not a pitch. It's saying, I want to make your experience complete, not, I want to pad your bill.
Right. These fries would be great with a side of truffle mayo. Yes, they would. Thank you for telling me that.
Exactly. And then you get the specifics. If someone orders a steak, you can't just write down steak and walk away.
The kitchen would kill you.
They would. The vocabulary is non-negotiable here. Rare, medium, or well done. Have to lock that in.
And what about when they run out of something? That's always so awkward.
The guide has a very polite, direct phrase for that. I'm sorry, that item is unavailable today. Apologetic, but firm. No long stories.
And clarity. The guide says if you didn't hear something, just ask.
Could you repeat that, please? Never, ever guess. That's the cardinal sin. Guessing is how a vegetarian ends up with a pepperoni pizza.
Right. Speaking of precision, let's talk about the vocabulary spotlight section. Some of this nuance is really fascinating, especially for non-native speakers.
It is. Precision is everything. Like
Yeah.
the difference between an appetizer and a main course.
Or starter and entree. That one always trips people up.
Entree is so tricky because in French it means starter, but in American English it's the main meal. You mix that up and the kitchen gets very confused.
And then you have the financial terms, bill versus check.
Pretty much the same thing, just regional. To me, the more interesting one is tip versus gratuity.
Gratuity sounds so serious, like a legal document.
It's more formal, right? You'll see an automatic gratuity of 18% has been added on a menu. Tip is more colloquial. It feels personal.
Okay, but here's where it got really interesting for me. The source uses Portuguese comparisons, and there was one verb they really focused on, to refill.
Ah, yes. This is a fascinating linguistic and cultural point. The source notes that refill isn't really a common verb structure in Portuguese. You'd say something like encher de novo, to fill again.
So the fact that English has one single word, refill, that says something about our service culture.
I think so, yeah. Language evolves to describe what a culture thinks is important. And the word refill suggests that topping up a drink is so core to the dining experience in English-speaking countries, bottomless soda, endless coffee,
Yeah.
that we needed a specific verb for it.
That's wild. We literally invented a word just to make sure the caffeine keeps coming.
Pretty much. In a lot of European cultures, if you finish a drink, you finish it. You want another, you order a new one. In the U.S., the refill is basically a right. It's an expectation.
So the word shapes the expectation.
And the expectation cements the word. It's a feedback loop.
The guide also hits on tableware, the difference between a plate and a dish.
Right. The plate is the physical object. The dish is the food on it. You order a dish, but you eat off a plate.
And cup versus glass.
So simple, but so vital. Cup for hot drinks usually has a handle. Glass for cold drinks. If you ask a native speaker for a glass of coffee, you're going to get a weird look. It just sounds dangerous.
Okay, so we've navigated the menu, we've got the vocabulary down, but now disaster strikes. The steak is tough, the soup is cold. We are now in phase 2, the crisis.
Every waiter's nightmare. But the guide provides a service recovery model that's actually incredibly robust.
Service recovery sounds like a special ops mission.
In a way, it is. The mission is to save the customer's experience and the restaurant's reputation.
So what are the steps? If someone says, this isn't what I ordered, what's the first move?
Step 1, listen and apologize. The guide suggests, I apologize for the inconvenience. You have to own it.
No excuses. No, well, the kitchen is busy.
Absolutely no excuses. That just makes them angrier. Step 2 is immediate action. I'll get this fixed right away. Speed is the antidote to anger.
Then you take it back to the kitchen.
You physically remove the problem, get the bad steak off the table so they stop staring at it and getting madder.
And then, step 4, the master stroke.
The sweet apology. We'd like to offer you a complimentary dessert for the inconvenience.
Why does this work so well? Is it just that people like free stuff?
It's deeper. There's this psychological thing called the service recovery paradox. The source argues that if you handle a negative experience really well, quickly, generously, You can actually impress the customer more than if nothing had gone wrong at all.
That feels so counterintuitive. A fixed mistake is better than no mistake.
Sometimes, yeah. A perfect meal is the baseline expectation. But a fixed mistake shows character. It shows you care. It builds this human bond.
There's a specific phrase the guide highlights that I think is a total power move in this situation.
Which one?
Thank you for bringing this to my attention.
Oh, yes. That's brilliant phrasing. Because think about it. Usually, a complaint feels adversarial. You versus me. But when you say, thank you for bringing this to my attention.
It becomes collaborative.
Exactly. It says, we're on the same team. You and I are going to fix this together. It validates their complaint without you having to grovel. It completely disarms them.
You can't stay angry at someone who just thanked you for complaining.
Impossible. You've just turned a confrontation into a consultation.
Okay, so the crisis is over. The free dessert has been eaten. Now we're in phase 3. The exit. This could be the most awkward part of the meal, right? Getting them to leave without actually kicking them out.
It's the transition problem. The guide suggests a soft offer first. Do you have room for dessert or coffee?
And if they say no,
That's your pivot. Shall I bring the check? It's the next logical step. It doesn't feel like you're rushing them.
then you get into the payment logistics.
How would you like to pay, cash or card? And you clarify the location. You can pay at the register, or I can take your payment here. That just removes all that awkwardness and anxiety for the guest.
And I'll be back with your change.
Crucial. Never, ever assume the change is a tip. Always bring it back and let them tell you to keep it.
And finally, the farewell. The guide says this has to be a sincere thank you.
It's the lasting impression. Hope to see you again soon isn't just a line. It's a literal invitation. It makes the relationship feel ongoing. And valued guests come back.
And let's be honest, valued guests leave better tips.
Well, there is that too.
So let's try to synthesize all this. We've gone from the welcome to the farewell. We survived the crisis. What's the big picture?
I think the big takeaway is that being a great waiter requires this really sophisticated mix of interpersonal skills, attention to detail, and a positive attitude. It is not unskilled labor.
Not at all. It's a language plus demeanor. You can know all the right words, but if your attitude is bad, it doesn't matter.
Exactly. The English skills are the hardware, but the professionalism, the anticipating needs, the service recovery, that's the software that runs the whole experience.
And the result is a pretty simple equation. Good English skills plus professionalism equals a better customer experience.
Which for the server equals a better career and better tips.
But I want to go back to something we touched on earlier because it's really sticking with me. That idea of the refill.
The word we invented for more coffee.
Right. The source makes a point of explaining it to Portuguese speakers because the concept, the verb, doesn't really exist in the same way.
It's so fascinating. It just shows how deeply language and culture are intertwined.
It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? How much of our dining expectation is shaped by the words we have available? Do we expect constant service because we have a word like refill?
Or do we have the word because we demand the service? It's a real chicken and egg question. It suggests the script we've been talking about isn't just a list of phrases, it's a cultural map. It shows what we value: speed, abundance, care.
So next time you're out to eat, pay attention. See if you can spot the script in action. See if you can hear the structure behind the service.
And maybe, just maybe, appreciate the linguistic gymnastics your server is performing just to get you that side of fries.
With ketchup, proactively delivered, of course.
Of course, that's the only way.
Thanks for listening to this deep dive. We'll see you at the next table.
Bon appétit.